Load it up. Give it up. We gon' show you how we party. Give it up. We gon' show you.
Am I good? Am I ready? Am I good? Yeah.
Do it again. Yeah.
Check. 1, 2.
Yep. Look. Yep. Nickelodeon. And we begin. Yeah, nope, that's the wrong one. Oh, it's gonna be one of those shows.
It's gonna be so good.
Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome to Unfair Sports, where we take a pensive approach to the sports conversation. I'm your host, Jay, with your favorite co-host, Jimmy. Thank you for checking us out here on YouTube or wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to. While you're there, please like, subscribe, rate us, and review us, and give us 5 stars. You don't think we deserve it? Meh, just give us 5 anyway.
Gifted.
So, on today's episode, we're going to dive right into Lincoln Riley bounces to USC. Woo. What's next for the Oklahoma Sooners? Our Phrozen 5 recap. Play a little one word with the NFL. Then wrap things up in a bow with the crazy college football weekend, from the big game to Bedlam to meet. Hit us up on the Unfair Fan Line 430-901-1906 and let us know what you think of the show. Give us your strongest opinions. Leave us a comment as well. Let us know if you like what Jimmy said or you hate it. You like what I said or you hate it. You know which one you do, so go ahead and do what you do. So doing what you're doing and you know what you're about to do, hit us up on that Unfair Fan Line 430-901-1906.
Jam Master Jay is transferring to USC. What's going on?
What it do, baby? How you know I was going to USC?
Your shirt.
Oh, yeah. My bad. USC is the topic of conversation all week. Actually, all Sunday and today. And, I thought I'd pull out the USC
you know what? That's
vintage
okay,
shirt.
Sooner fans, because I've got my crimson hoodie on.
Yes.
We are going to help you today through these troubling and difficult times.
Before that, though, how was your Thanksgiving, Jamie?
It was good. Really good Thanksgiving.
Let's get the personal
spend time with
check-up,
the fam. Time with the fam.
They actually let you in the house?
They let me in the house.
I'm surprised.
I had to take my shoes off. And my jacket. Anyway. But, of course, the football games were terrible. Yeah, they were terrible.
They were awful.
Even the Dallas game that was back and forth was terrible because I saw the referees more than I did the players. Talked about it on my solo show.
Yeah,
I did blame the coaches more for that, but you have to listen to that later on.
If you haven't checked that out, go check out his solo. He popped one out on Saturday. I also did an episode with some other cats on the Twitter that I'm close with Ross as well as Louise. We jumped on and kind of talked about it. It was fun. It was a good way of trying to break up the weekend because there was really nothing going on, it was god awful for Thanksgiving.
Right. Now, how was your Thanksgiving?
My Thanksgiving was great, actually. Fam was, for the first time in a few years since that Rona hit, family came down. We did the family thing, big dinner. Kids actually participated in cooking, which is awesome. Jayla made some dressing, which was fantastic. The family enjoyed. We had the pies. We had everything. I'm still dealing with gluttony as we speak. I'm probably going to go eat some pound cake as soon as this is over.
Right there with you.
But speaking of pound cake, let's talk about somebody else that just took a pounding. Oklahoma Sooners.
Sorry, I can't hear that without laughing.
I'm sorry, I can't either.
We're going to be okay. Don't worry.
It's going to be okay. I promise you. It's going to be okay. And we're going to talk you through it. So let's open up with what's going on in the State of the Union for the Oklahoma organization, Sooner football organization. So, of course, we all heard, unless you've been sleeping under a rock, Lincoln Riley has decided to depart University of Oklahoma, and he's headed to University of Southern California on a new contract. I'm going to talk about the parameters of that a little later that we've seen rumored, but I'm hearing big numbers, and it's one of those, I know why you did it. So the question we're asking is, why would Lincoln Riley do this? Like, why would he leave? Why would he go when Oklahoma has been so great and dominant and competing in conference in the college football playoff? He went 3 years in a row, took 3 big L's. But why would you leave this situation? I know why. There's one thing that is universal around college football. It's toxic fan bases. If you're a top 10 organization, your fan base is toxic. I don't care what you try to tell me. None of you can argue this with, period. You're all toxic, period. That's what it is. From the little kid to the top. I'm actually writing something right now. I'm going to post on my Medium tonight to explain in detail. But they're all toxic. Now, in order to handle such toxicity, Jimmy, the best way to get through it and survive it is you got to win championships. You have to have the opportunity to win championships. You got to continue to compete heavily. Alabama, super toxic. If you look at that message board on Saturday, they wanted Nick Saban fired. Bro won 6 championships, but they want him gone now because he struggled in the Iron Bowl. That's toxicity. And so for Lincoln Riley in this situation, leaving Oklahoma made sense. Because the one thing you can't do in Oklahoma that you can do at USC is throw a rock and hit 10 5-stars in one throw. Period. So I get the move. It makes sense. And I'll go more in detail on that afterwards. Jimmy, what was your first reaction to the fact that Lincoln Riley decided to throw the deuces?
Mine was, it was shock immediately followed by a lack of shock. Shock in the sense that this was smoke screened beautifully. I believe in the sense that what was manufactured to people was that he was potentially going to LSU.
Yes.
And that's all that we heard throughout the weekend.
Tons of smoke around that.
Yeah, even through Bedlam. So then to have to pivot from that to him being at USC, it made sense because of the USC brand. Even though their product on the field really hasn't been good consistently since Pete Carroll,
right.
Like it or not, that is still a top 7 brand. And part of what we talked about with him potentially going to LSU is that it was a move backwards. It wasn't at least a lateral move or a vertical move, which ideally is what you want. So USC brand-wise, even though because of their product on the field and some things in the program have sort of diminished the luster of what that brand was like when Pete Carroll was winning championships, it's still, I think, a brand equal to OU. Some would say exceeding OU, even though their product on the field is nowhere near what OU's has been. I mean, going back through the Stoops era as well.
Yes.
So when I took that into consideration, that this is USC, this is, as you mentioned, California, one of the 3 states that's just a breeding ground for 5-star athletes, several of which he had already recruited to Oklahoma for 2022 and 2023, who now don't even have to leave their home state.
Nope.
It did make sense. And whenever somebody leaves, I mean, just like in relationships, if somebody wants to leave and somebody doesn't want to be there, you hurt yourself more by not only keeping them there, but being excessively upset about it, because everyone has the right to choose, to make the choices that they feel are right for themselves, their career, their family, which is what he did. So it's like, that's not a problem. Just like Kevin Durant leaving Oklahoma, leaving the Oklahoma City Thunder was not the problem. It's more so how you did it.
Yeah.
So there are portions of how Lincoln Riley handled this that makes him look like a liar, that makes him look like a snake, that makes him look like he didn't even have at least a shred of loyalty to the Oklahoma soil and how good they have been to him and for him in his career. And that's a big part of what has Sooner fans so upset, because I think a lot of them, let's say the ones who are reasonable, not toxic, they're not necessarily upset with him leaving, because let's be honest, the product they put on the field this year was good, but something about it just wasn't quite right.
It was off. You could tell.
You could tell something was off. Maybe this had a little bit something to do with it, because if you're planning on leaving or if you don't want to be there, then you're not 100% committed. You're not 100% focused. And perhaps Lincoln Riley wasn't, and that translated to what happened on the field. But overall, I was ultimately not shocked by this. I understand why he's doing it. I just have problems with the way in which he did it.
Well, I mean, I guess that is an argument about the approach, but it sounded like nothing got out until right when he did the meeting with the players. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of curious to how it was supposed to go down, if you want me to be absolutely honest. Like, what way do you feel like this should have happened? Because to me, that's actually the ideal way, that your name's going to be thrown. Lincoln Riley's name's going to be thrown in every job. His name was thrown in the Cleveland Browns job. His name was thrown in the Dallas Cowboys job. He was thrown into the LSU job, which everyone, of course, laughed at. Like, look, he passed on the Cleveland Browns as well as Dallas Cowboys. How else is Lincoln? Where else should Lincoln Riley? He should have went to the NFL if he's going to go to LSU. I get that. I disagree with it, but I get that. But how else can you have this come out? Like, what other way do you feel like would have been better?
Well, I mean, one could say, and this is sort of a minor reason, football-wise, perhaps, since you know that once you verbally committed to them, USC wasn't going anywhere because you will have been the best coach that they've had since Pete Carroll. So perhaps you wait until after the bowl game. That's a small reason why. But even if you don't do that, part of what you don't is not so much what he needed to do. It's not doing certain things that he did. Like, for instance, a headline for an article published yesterday. So in a sense, probably minutes or hours before the news dropped. Lincoln Riley shuts down LSU speculation, says he's committed to Oklahoma. Now, what's funny about this article, this is by Kyle Bonagura, an ESPN staff writer, is that in this article, he doesn't exactly say that, but the way in which he talks, it makes you believe that he's committed. He talks about conversations that he and Castiglione and the president have had about the upcoming move to the SEC, and we have these conversations all the time. We'll continue to have them for years. That type of thing didn't need to be said. Sure, you shut down the LSU explanation because he said, I am not going to be the coach of LSU, and he did not tell a lie.
He did not. He didn't lie. And that, to me, is what matters.
But reaffirming that commitment, how much you love the school, how much you love the city, blah, blah, blah. Same thing Kevin Durant did. And then that exact same day, it is known that you had already committed to this job, probably days or weeks in advance. That's part of handling it poorly. You don't have to do that.
I get that, but he answered the questions that the reporters placed in front of him. It's not like he volunteered this information. Mm-hmm. He knew that the speculatory questions were coming, and they've been coming. So what else? What else is he supposed to do?
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with shutting down LSU, but I'm not fine with continuing to reaffirm your commitment to Oklahoma. He didn't have to say that. You just shut that down because coaches, you know how they get with coach speak, or when they don't want to answer something, they answer the question in as few words as possible, and then they wait for the next one, or they get up and leave. That's all he had to do.
Yeah,
so this was not cool.
I get that part. So with that, there was a few reasons why we've read that this in speculation of why he left. First off was the SEC move. He wasn't on board with that. He was thrown blindsided by that happening. And it's kind of funny that Joel Clack kind of threw a little shade at everybody at OU. Like, I understand that you guys are upset about this piece, and nobody was really upset when OU and Texas blindsided all the Big 12 and gutted basically the conference to leave for the SEC. OU fans were fine with that at that point. He's right in a way. But not an approach to take. I get why Lincoln Riley's leaving. I got 3 points that I feel like makes sense for him to go. And I get why the SEC is not something that he wanted to do. First off, and I'll explain why fear of the competition of the SEC I don't think was it. I think it was a little bit more to the feeling of being disrespected, of not even being brought into the conversation. More so, it's more of the principalities behind it. That was the piece. But 3 reasons why it makes sense for him to go there. First off, as you mentioned earlier, he's getting a lot of recruits from California.
Right.
2022 class, 2023 class. He's got the number 2 quarterback, number 1 wide receiver. He's got all these top players coming from where? Southern Cal. Now he can keep them there with no problem. And he's a really good recruiter. So we've seen that. The thing is like, for example, right now, the 2 Heisman Trophy front runners right now, quarterbacks. CJ Stroud at Ohio State, Bryce Young at Alabama. Where are they from? Southern Cal. Guess where Clemson's quarterback, DJ Uiagalelei, is from? California. So you've got all these California guys out there, and he was a preseason favorite for the Heisman. He can walk in the door of these players now there and say, hey, guess what? I got 2 Heisman Trophy winners. You see those? You guys, those other Cali boys and those other schools become Heisman Trophy winners, I can make you that. Just stay home. You're a monster. Stay home. I got you. He can do that. So that's one big play. He got recruits, 5 stars. He could throw a rock and hit 20 of them. I think in the ESPN top 300, like 100, almost 150 of those kids were from California. There you go. That's 1. 2, the biggest problem that USC had in the Pete Carroll era was sanctions. Was controversies, was stuff happening. People giving Reggie Bush family money in them and stuff, right? Name, image, and likeness kicks in, buddy.
Takes care of that.
Takes care of all that. He ain't have to worry about being in the doghouse now. He ain't have to worry about at all. He can get his kids all kinds of scholarships. They can do whatever they need to do out there because it's California, it's LA. People got bread, and they can take care of them. Now, this is the key thing. This is the third piece. This is why NIL piece jumps in big and everything else. money. USC finally has the want to actually win. They had 3 athletic directors since Pete Carroll left. Mm-hmm. Pat Hayden, Lynn Swan, and now the new one, Mike Bone. They're getting stable. And Mike is making the approach of getting to the booster saying, look, we're no longer the only show here. The Dodgers are good. We've got 2 NFL teams, and they're both good. Mm-hmm. The Lakers got LeBron here. The Clippers, they're actually still performing. We've got a soccer team here. They've got all this stuff going on. The Kings was doing pretty good at one point. They're realizing that the only way we can keep money coming into this program is we've got to compete. Lincoln Riley makes them do that. Now he can bring boosters in. Boosters are willing to back a guy with such a big name as Lincoln Riley. They weren't willing to do that for a Clay Helton or even a Lane Kiffin. So that's, to me, the 3 reasons why Lincoln Riley made sense to go there.
I'll give you a 4th reason, and I'm going to pat myself on the back with this one because I haven't heard anybody else say this.
Okay.
You know how we went back to the original rankings this season of the College Football Playoff Committee?
Yeah.
And how they disrespected OU by having them at 8, and then they did it again the next week, even though there were like teams in front of them that had lost, whatever it was.
Yep.
And we said right then and there that the committee does not like OU. They don't want them in this college football playoff again. They're not going to get it. They're not going to get in no matter what they do. So by going to USC, not only does he free himself from that extra hurdle that he would have to overcome, the committee themselves, in order to get back in the good graces to get in the top 4, but because of that USC brand and where they are, that the committee would love nothing more.
Oh, yeah.
For television, for advertising, for the brand to get USC back into the college football playoff.
Colin said that on his podcast from Sunday night, Monday morning. I listened to it this morning when I went to the gym because I wanted to hear what he was going to say. As I had a feeling he's an LA guy now. Yeah. And he's very connected. He said that he had conversations with a lot of them, and that was one of the big piece is that you got to make a splash. You got to do something big. And they were like, just wait. So they've been working on trying to get him for a while. The other piece behind that is he's like, TV executives were probably ecstatic, throwing papers, excited, confetti's falling from the sky. Mm-hmm. Because they have the 2nd largest market in the United States locked up with a coach that actually knows what he's doing. So don't get twisted. Lincoln Riley is going to be successful at USC.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No doubt.
He's a good coach. He's not underrated. I had an argument with somebody about him being underrated. No. He's overrated. No, he's not overrated. He's not underrated. He's a good coach. He knows how to coach. He knows how to get players there. Alex Grinch knows the Pac-12 because he coached at Washington State, and his defense was actually pretty good there compared to what they were at OU. He was still getting recruits in, but he's going to get better recruits at USC than he could at OU. Even though OU was getting good recruits, he's going to get better ones.
I mean, better recruits, a more watch. I mean, he's one of the few coaches who, when you watch an OU game and when you watch Lincoln Riley's offense operated, let's say before this season, it's fun to watch. You know, it's what you want to see in college football. So so there are so many things going for him, and that's why, like I said, I have no problem with this move. USC, LSU, wherever it would have been. I mean, some places I might have had some problems with that.
USC
do better.
Makes the most sense. He is a Hollywood-looking guy.
It makes perfect sense.
He's vibrant. He's going to be a celebrity there, basically. It was perfect for them to make this big name splash, and I think this is probably the time that USC is now going to make moves. So from there, Jimmy, news every Monday. Go ahead and give the good people the news.
And now, Jimmy has the news.
Thank you, Wendy. And we're going to start out with some bad news, especially if you're a Carolina Panthers fan. And that is that Carolina Panthers star running back, you know this was coming at some point, Christian McCaffrey, is set to miss the rest of the season with an ankle injury suffered in the first half of Sunday's 33-10 loss at the Miami Dolphins. The X-rays indicated that it didn't appear to be too severe, but another MRI revealed that there was damage enough to place him on IR. They haven't said anything about surgery, but they hope for him to be ready and healthy and healed by the 2022 season.
Yeah, man, that's sad, man. This keeps happening to Run CMC, and it hurts my feelings. I actually was hoping that he'd be able to finish the year out, do good. I mean, Cam is looking old, but at the same time, they're actually looking a lot better than they were before. The defense is starting to get back healthy, and then they lose him. That sucks. Well, Joe Brady, come on down.
And part of who you see this with too, and God forbid this happens to him again, is Saquon Barkley. It's interesting how they were world beaters, how they were probably 1A, 1B as far as being the best running backs in football, and then these injuries just keep piling up on him.
Piling up.
And it's just like, I can't tell if it's bad luck or if it's, is there such thing as being like just in too good a shape, like so good a shape that you actually
keep
are
yourself
more susceptible to injuries?
Yes, because you don't have enough fat around to actually absorb certain things. Yeah, that's the other thing that they feared about DK Metcalf. They wanted him to get a little bit more weight, more fat on him to add with his muscle, because being 2% body fat is not a good thing when you're getting hit by dudes that's like 40% body fat.
True. All right, so up next, Dallas Cowboys fans, when you take the field this Thursday at New Orleans, where you are a 5.5-point favorite over the Saints, it will be without Coach Mike McCarthy, who unfortunately tested positive for COVID-19. Defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, former head coach of the Falcons, will serve as the interim coach Thursday night, and they will see what they can do with him filling in, and they hope to get Mike McCarthy back after that.
Man, they should have put Kellen Moore in charge. Give him an opportunity.
I didn't think about that.
They should have gave Kellen Moore the opportunity, because this would have been a great scenario to decide if you really want to move on from Mike McCarthy and let Kellen Moore take the reins, or if he's not really ready yet. Because right now, we don't know if he's ready yet. And if he went out there and kind of laid an egg at us, we'd been like, okay, Kellen, calm down. You don't need a head coaching job yet. Stay here for a few more years. Yeah. But if he had went out there and done well, they could have been like, well, let's find a way to get ready to fast track you in. So honestly, they kind of want him to not too good. But at this point, somebody's going to offer him a head coaching job.
I mean, that makes sense, but that would be a one-game sample size. So I don't know if that would be fair to Kellen.
That's all you need.
Being thrown in there like that on a short week, albeit.
Yeah, true.
But either way, I do think they need to do what they need to do to keep him in the building. All right, so up next, and this is really interesting, Boston Celtics center Enes Kanter is changing his name to Enes Kanter Freedom. The decision comes ahead of the Turkish-born Kanter becoming a U.S. citizen. Today, as we record the show on Monday, his agent told the Associated Press that he will make the name change official after that. So as you know, Kanter's had sort of a long history, especially recent history, of outspoken activism, whether it's issues, political, social issues, Turkey, China, even LeBron James going after him. So he's got interesting social and political perspectives, and he's going to change his name to Freedom. Yeah,
the world be free walked so that Meta World Peace could jog, and now Enes Kanter Freedom can run.
Stop.
We're there.
All right, so up next, I don't know if we were going to get into this with some more OU stuff, but as expected, Spencer Rattler has decided to enter the transfer portal.
Yep.
I don't think that came as much as a surprise to you, probably.
We knew he was going. I mean, Caleb Williams got the job if Caleb Williams stays.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that. But what do you think? What do you think he's looking at?
Pac-12.
Pac-12.
Yeah.
USC necessarily?
No. I think he's done with Lincoln Riley. He'll probably go to Arizona State, maybe Oregon. I was hearing some rumbles about maybe UCLA with Chip Kelly. You never know.
And you know how coaches love a reclamation project, and that will be somewhat what he is, to see if they could do for him consistently more what Lincoln Riley was or wasn't able to do for him. So that'll be interesting. I look forward to see where it goes.
Same. Is that it?
That's it. Snooze.
Was Jimmy with the news.
Thank you, Bob. All right, so Jay, so now that we have gotten into Lincoln Riley's move to USC, why he did it, what that means for him, now we are left to discuss all who remain. As far as Sooner Nation and the future of this OU program, especially as they get ready to make the transition into the USC. So losing coaches, we talk about assistants as well as upcoming recruits that were going to have a significant impact on the team, is thrown the future of the Oklahoma Sooner football program into question as far as what it's going to look like, how they're going to perform, etc. So, Jay, fair or unfair, OU's future is not bright.
So I'm going to say that that's very much unfair. So let me go ahead and bring the music down, bring music off on this. Let me look at the camera and let me talk to you, Sooner fans. I want to talk to you all. Hear me out. Relationships are hard. And it does suck when someone that you want doesn't want you anymore. I talked about toxicity at the beginning of the show, a little jab at everybody, playing around, having fun. But no, on a serious note, Oklahoma, you are just fine. You will be just fine. And this is the reason why I say that you all will be just fine. Oklahoma is a top 5 program, historically, as well as just now. The struggles in recruiting and getting the right players, especially on the defensive side, lays on the coaches. And so now the focus is going to be going after a defensive coach. But you'll be fine. You're going to get a good coach. You're going to get somebody that's going to hit the trails. That's going to be an excellent recruiter. That's going to bring recruits back. You know, the other thing is, everybody's saying Lincoln Riley has set the program back for years. I get that the sky is falling on the 2022-2023 recruiting classes. Cool. I understand that. Mm-hmm. But you're forgetting about one thing that really is in your favor right now. The transfer portal. Whatever coach you bring in, he brings the right clout, which Joe Castiglione has been fantastic about hiring. Mm-hmm. I mean, he hired Bob Stoops, who hired Lincoln Riley, and they handed the reins over to him. He hasn't had to search for a coach since 1999 when he had to search for Bob Stoops. Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful thing. Or 98, one of those years. That's something that you should appreciate. He's going to get you guys a good coach. We're hearing names, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But the transfer portal is where everybody else, where all of your pieces are going to be put together. You don't need to have a whole bunch of freshmen and sophomores coming in. You need juniors. You need experienced guys, especially as you prepare for the transition to the SEC. So, big Oklahoma fans, don't stress about. I get relations. It's hard when somebody breaks up with you. You want them, they don't want you, and you look out there and think that nobody else really going to want you. I promise you, a lot of people want you. I bet you Joe's phone was blowing up the minute the news came through. Like, hey, y'all interested in coaches? I mean, I got 5 coaches. Agents probably tell me I got 5 coaches that's ready. Just tell me which one you want to talk about. Please give me a chance. Hey, Joe, I miss you. Love you. Hey, big head. I got this one guy, probably be perfect for OU. Call me, because they know OU pays, OU takes care of their coaches, and there's a lot of appreciation when it comes to the program. So don't stress. It's going to suck for 24, 48 hours, but I promise you will end up better because of this. Also, I'm kind of glad Lincoln left. At this point, I think it was getting to the point where, as pissed off as fans are about the way the team has performed since the first college football playoff loss against Georgia, that I was sitting there live and trying to figure out why you took your foot off the gas, the team will be better.
I agree with you. It is unfair to say that OU's future is not bright. I think a big part of what this comes down to is having Bob Stoops come back to be the interim coach in order to get them to and through the bowl game, because it's not that you're bringing in, obviously, a seasoned coach, the last championship winning coach that the school had, but bringing him back is symbolic, because part of what Bob Stoops does and what he is meant to do for the players and for the fan base is to remind them who they are.
Yes.
In the press conference that he had today with Joe Harris, the president, and Joe Castiglione, the AD, part of what Bob Stoops said, and I never thought about it this way, is that you'll appreciate the metaphor as well, that it's like in Thor Ragnarok, how his dad was telling him that Asgard is not a place, it's a people. So wherever the people are, that's where Asgard is. OU is not a coach. It's not coaches. It's not an AD. It's not a president. It's the players. They are the program. They are the reason why OU has become what they've become. So bringing Bob Stoops back is meant to remind everybody who you really are. You are no longer who you are just because Lincoln Riley left to go to USC. This is still OU. This is still a raucous fan base. This is still a top 5, top 7 brand, and that is going to remain. Yes, it's going to be bumpy. All transitions like this are, and they're going to be every single time. But eventually, as always happens with OU, which is why they have multiple national championships, you're going to come out on the other side of it just fine and better than what you thought you would be.
You're unscathed, so you'll be fine.
And part of coming into an OU program like this, a culture like this, is that it is a culture of winning. It's a culture of tradition. It's a culture with a positive legacy. It's like the difference between walking into, I don't know, let's say the Steelers or the Patriots, who have that culture of winning, of being buttoned up, of being professional, of being classy, of winning championships. It's the same with OU. It's like when you walk into the Cleveland Browns facility, unfortunately, the culture is a lot different than walking into a Steelers or a Patriots culture. It's the same with OU. When you walk into that building, when you see those statues, when you practice how you think, that affects how you perform, and that affects who you are because you're a part of that legacy now. So whoever comes into this, coaches, recruits, whoever it is, they're going to become a part of that, and they're going to buy into that, and that is collectively what is going to help this school and this program to be just fine. So you're right. It's going to be just fine. It's going to be okay. Perhaps this was even for the best. If you saw what we saw in OU's performance this season. So in that sense, maybe this is the right time, because wouldn't it be worse if they were like in the college football playoff or just doing great and then he leaves, as opposed to, well, we kind of weren't who we needed to be anyway. So maybe, even though it's earlier than we thought, maybe it is time for a new voice at OU.
I think it's more so the unknown. And I get that. That's the thing. Is like I said, you break up, you a guy, a girl, you break up, relationship's over. Now you're in that unknown space of, okay, what's the relationship going to look, my future going to look like? Am I ever going to find a spouse? Am I going to be able to have kids? Everybody has that stress that kicks in when it comes to, being single. And if you have the desires to do the things like marriage and all that stuff, I get that part. That's the unknown when it comes to losing Lincoln Riley. And now we have no clue who the coach is. When the coach gets hired, you're going to forget about all of this stuff. I promise you. It's no different than when Bob Stoops stepped down in 2017. People weren't very happy about that. They're kind of like, wait a minute, whoa. This is out of nowhere. But then he immediately handed the reins to Lincoln Riley. We just don't get that this time. We don't get the reins handed off immediately. We have to wait and see who those reins are going to be handed to. So OU will be fine. They're probably going to get a great coach, which we're going to talk about now, and do it. But Jimmy, out of curiosity, though, you know what? We'll get onto that a little bit later.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this though. Coaches, who do you think will be a good option? I've been hearing one name that's been flying, of course, the most over the last, and this is Monday night we're recording. He might get announced Tuesday morning, or while we're recording, we might get a notification that he's been a verbal agreement.
Yeah.
But the big name out there is Brent Venables, former defensive coordinator for OU from 04 to 11. A lot of people attacked me on social media about saying that he'd be a good hire because of the defenses back in those days. We forgot that those defense also consisted of Mike Stoops as a co-defensive coordinator. They did go to, 2 national championships?
Yes, at least.
And played in 2 with Brent at DC before, I think one before Mike Stoops came back, and then one when Mike Stoops came back. And then that's kind of when he decided to go ahead and take the job with Dabo Swinney. But guess what? He played in 2 more national championships, and his defense actually did well against the Big Ten. Ohio State did good against Alabama. They were considered the Bama killers. They were the ones out there beating on them big, great Bama schools.
That's true.
So I like him as an option. Who do you think would be a good option for Oklahoma?
I mean, to me, it's not so much a particular coach. It's a particular mindset. If you're going into the SEC, you got to be aggressive. You have to be a coach that shows no fear. And, you don't have to be like a rah-rah type of coach, which, Brent Venables, for a lot of people who don't know, he's kind of a maniac on the sidelines as a defensive coordinator.
He's a lunatic.
But that was perfectly fine because of his job and how that actually helped to motivate his players.
Defenders loved it.
Yeah. So either way, I mean, you need a coach who's going to be aggressive, who's going to have that mindset, who's not going to be afraid to offense or defense go at a Nick Saban or go at a Kirby Smart. That's the kind of guy that you want. And again, it doesn't even have to be a guy that you expect that from. Like, for instance, going back to the Les Miles at OSU days, I guess even LSU, you wouldn't think that he was like that, but he was a very aggressive coach. He had no fear. He didn't care who was on the other side of him. And that was a big part of why eventually he did win a championship, because I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but there were some things I saw in this Bedlam game that was just typical Mike Gundy as far as being afraid to be aggressive. We'll get into that. I got a lot to say about that, but yeah. But whether that's Brent Venables, whether that's I've heard Mark Stoops at Kentucky. Yeah. I've heard that, and I've heard several others. But either way, got to be aggressive.
I agree. I think aggression is the biggest thing. So I've heard Mark Stoops as well. Not Mark.
Right.
The Kentucky head coach. He's in the SEC. He knows the SEC. He knows how to recruit. He's recruited some good players to Kentucky to do something. So, of course, he could do it at even better technical program that's really focused on football. OU has the want to, and that's the key thing that will attract a really good coach. Mm-hmm. They want to win. They've proven it. Texas has gotten better recruiting classes than OU year in, almost year in, year out. Mm-hmm. But a lot of time, more times than not, they've gotten better recruiting classes. But guess what? OU goes out there and they beat they tush. Because why? OU wants it more. They want to win, and they prove it in everything that they do as a administration, as a school, as a program, everything. And that's the one reason why y'all don't need to be stressed out. I get it. You don't know. I mean, I am a pseudo 1 foot in, 1 foot out OU fan anyway. And I don't take that stuff seriously because I understand that there's so many components that's going to come in here. But OU's every year recovered. They're not going to go to the era of the 90s where they started hiring random guys.
No.
They're going to be meticulous about this one. And with Bob being there to help, hell, Bob can take over for a little bit and bring somebody in if they really want to make sure they always stay successful. Recruiting is going to be key. So I like Brent as a recruiter. Me and my cousin was talking about Jeff Leby.
Where's he at?
Offensive coordinator for Ole Miss.
Okay.
OU 2007 graduate.
Okay.
So he is with the Lane train, the number 5 offense yards per game in the country at Ole Miss. We know Lane Kiffin's probably not going to stick around there because the LSU job's open. Why would you not go to LSU where you could probably win a national championship? That's the reason why LSU is a really good job.
Oh, boy.
Vastly underrated. Why?
Here you go.
The last 3 coaches that they hired have won national championships. And guess what? Only one of them we consider is actually a good coach, and that's Nick Saban. We don't consider Les Miles a good coach.
We don't?
Hell
I
no.
never not considered him a... How was he a bad coach?
I didn't say he was a bad coach. I just don't think
I
he's
was
that
say
good.
he's a bad coach.
I don't think he's a great coach. He's not elite.
No, he's not a great coach.
He's not elite.
I'll give you that. He's
Neither
good.
is Ed Orgeron.
He's good.
He's not elite either.
Yeah.
Nick Saban's elite.
Okay. Yeah.
That's it.
Well, he's more than elite.
He's it.
He's the top of the pyramid.
He's the GOAT. Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you got a school that can do that, that's where the Lincoln Riley problem comes in, is that if your fan base is going to be toxic, like, you know, Bama's fan base, Georgia's fan base, all the other fan bases, you got to at least find a way to be able to win some chips. All you need is a guy that can go out there, get them recruits. And I think them, and then maybe Dan Lanning, the defensive coordinator for Georgia.
Okay.
He's up for the Broyles Award. And there's one more name that I'm going to throw out there. And I'm curious to what you think.
God.
And I'm going to piss some people off. Jim Knowles.
No, who?
Jim Knowles, defensive coordinator for Oklahoma State. He is a leader for the Broyles Award for the best coordinator in college football this year.
I mean, we're seeing strange things right now, so that will be even stranger. But
you see what he did with that OSU defense. They are like the 3rd best defense in the country right now by efficiency. They are up there with the Georgias and the Wisconsins of the world. They're a really good defense.
yes,
What do you need to go win in the SEC? A good defense. I mean, I'm thinking Dan Lanning if you don't go after Brent Venables, but I mean, why not Jim Knowles? Is it too far fetched?
that is.
Tell me, is that far fetched?
That is so far fetched. It's off the cliff. You have fallen off the cliff with that one, but I love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just be off the cliff then.
You know, you would sound like the greatest genius in sports radio broadcasting if that ever happened. Because then you just post this clip, Graham, Twitter, whatever it is, you'll look completely like a genius.
Yeah. Then I look like an idiot if it doesn't even be considered. Which I don't know. I don't know about Jim.
So it makes it a long shot, so it's okay. No one expects it to, but if it happens, if that ever happened, my God, like you could make a career off of that. All right. So there was some NFL played actually yesterday.
They did?
Despite all of this swirl of chaos happening in Norman. But yeah, so before we get into that, I'm going to recap my Frozen 5.
Before you do that, I got to say this. Shout out to everybody playing in the Westgate Super Contest. I don't know how the hell you're doing it, because this year has been ridiculous.
Hard.
It's been hard. You must have some great analysts. Your statistic and probability is off the charts to figure out how to compete in this mess. I don't get it. I don't.
And to that
There's
point,
no logic. None.
To that point, went 2-3. Had some picks, felt really good about by and large. Here is the recap. My L's first. The Eagles were -3.5 in New York. They decided to be the Eagles again. It's like they decided to be the Eagles again, and the Giants decided just not to suck enough to win the game. It doesn't make sense with how the Eagles were playing coming into this game. Jalen Hurts, he just threw another interception. As a matter of fact.
Yeah. I thought I heard that.
Terrible game. Terrible pick. So I'm probably not going to be able to trust the Eagles the rest of the season. The Houston Texans, the same thing. They woke up and figured out, we are the Texans. So let's go play like it, guys.
I mean, yeah, we beat up on the Titans, but nah.
Yeah. We'll just let the Jets do whatever they want to do, even though their rookie quarterback, who's rusty, is just coming back from an injury, and they lost their best running back last week. But we'll just figure out how not to score and how not to stop them. So we'll be the Texans again. Terrible pick. Can't trust you either. Now this one. Now here's what was interesting about this one, Jay. At this point, I was 2-2, and the success or failure of the Frozen 5 rested on this game. My out of my mind pick of the week. Now I always choose one game, and one game that I just see something in, and when I pick it, people say you're out of your mind for picking that team. Sometimes I win, sometimes I lose. So I had the Colts +3 at home against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Completely controlled the first half, played really, really good. Came out in the second half, and Carson Wentz, again, woke up from that second half nap and realized he was Carson Wentz and started to turn the ball over as what got him kicked out of Philly. So it was tied up. They were driving down, getting ready to kick a field goal, so we were going to get a push. At least it wouldn't have been a losing week. And then Uncle Lenny decided to show the world that Hassan Haskins was doing an impression of him over the weekend and ran through the entire defense for the score, 38-31. Colts lose the cover. We had it. Lose that one. Again, even when you bet against the GOAT, sometimes it's not the GOAT that beats you. Sometimes it's someone who loves playing with the GOAT.
Proximity to the GOAT.
Right, proximity to the GOAT. So don't ever bet against his GOATness or anyone in proximity to the GOAT. So the Dubs, we had the Dolphins +2.5 against the Carolina Panthers. Cam was done in this game. He is done. I, like a lot of football fans, love seeing him again in a Panthers uniform.
Same.
Just the joy and the jubilation that he brings with it. But when it got down to actually playing, he can't play anymore.
Warms my heart.
Yeah, it hurts, but it's time for him to move on. So they took care of business easily in that one. They're somewhat resurgent. And lastly, the Patriots -6.5. Pegged this on Monday. Easy. Even if they had A.J. Brown, it would not have mattered with the way that this Patriots team is playing. That 6.5 was a disrespectful line. So I knew that if I had been betting a lot of money on one game, it would have been on this one. So they took care of business easily. Mac Jones continues to get better and better. That defense continues to get turnovers. Tennessee had no chance. They had some good running plays, though. They've got a couple of backs that could actually help to keep them somewhat competitive, but not against the Patriots. Easy cover. So that's 2-3. And Jay, got to get us back on track.
Yeah,
let's got a little bit closer, but
yeah,
you got to.
Let's pray about that. I'm gonna be honest. I don't see a 5-0 week coming at all this year. It's so hard.
It's hard, but it's in there somewhere.
Is it something about just nothing makes sense?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like teams there's no consistency amongst the majority of these teams. Even the Buccaneers, with how they've been playing lately. And I know they beat up on the Giants, but that's the Giants.
That's my
it's just
point.
like almost every single team outside of maybe one or two have been inconsistent throughout the season as far as betting on them, and then they look completely different one week than they did the week before.
Yep. Yeah. Heckle and jive.
Yeah. So I don't know. All right, so
Dr. Jekyll, Mrs. Hyde, whatever.
Right.
Hyde and Jekyll.
Hide, seek, whatever.
Beard, mustache, bull. Anyway.
Yeah.
You said you had some one words for us today.
So going to the NFL, there were some interesting performances. It was a strange weekend for the NFL. So I'm going to give you a game, give you some stats, the outcome of the game, and I want you to give me one word about maybe what stood out to you about this game. Just one word that comes to mind, all right?
Okay, let's go for it.
So going back to Tampa, I gave you my impression of that. Comeback win, 38-31 over the Colts. Uncle Lenny, 3 rushing touchdowns and 1 receiving touchdown. One word.
Monster. That's what we expected him coming to the league, was going to be a monster like that, and he just ate. He's the only reason why my fantasy team looked halfway decent this week, and I still took an L with his 4 touchdowns. Still took an L. But, hey, Uncle Lenny, man, when he has his moments, he's a beast. And against that Colts defense, that's what made it even more impressive
they're a
to
good
me.
defense.
They are a very solid defense. I didn't expect them to even allow him to get, because they haven't been able to get Leonard Fournette going as much as they've wanted to, but he's going to probably hit 1,000 yards this season.
I think he will, and he looks, when I watched portions of this game, he looked fresh. Because I know there have been some games where they didn't really use him like a workhorse, but he just looked fresh. He looked like, there were shades of like Earl Campbell in there, but he just looked phenomenal. He looked like one of the top 5 running backs in the NFL, and he still has that level of talent and that ability, and he's still pretty young, I think, for a running back. He's not yet hit that hill that all running backs hit, but he was fantastic. And you know what? Brady is not exactly what we're used to seeing from him. He's been good. He's been solid. But it's going to take some other guys stepping up in order to help make up for that. Because, I mean, come on, he is 44. Yep. We know at some point it has to happen. And I think a healthy dose of Uncle Lenny is what's going to propel them into probably a 1-2 seed. I think we'll see.
Yeah, he's got 621 yards this year. So I think that he can hit 1,000. I think he can.
All right. Up next, Ravens 16-0 over the Browns. Baker 18-37, 247, 1 touchdown. The Ravens were great against the run. And then you had Lamar. 165 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, and they still won the game. One word on the Ravens.
Stank. They stank. That was just a nasty game. I tried to watch. I watched the whole game, but I struggled. It was a bad game. Yes. It just was. It was just overall bad game. Both quarterbacks didn't look like they were focused. Lamar throwing passes to guys that weren't there. He's seeing ghosts for some weird reason and throwing interceptions. I mean, 2 of them were tipped, I get, but one of them, the other 2, he threw directly to the defender. You want it? It's yours. But it was he didn't look both ways. Like the placement of the ball was where it's supposed to be, but the defender's not supposed to be there. And if you looked, you would have known that a defender was there too. Yeah. So, yeah, it stank.
Mm-hmm. And do you think, like, with this performance from Baker, I know he's dealing with a lot of injuries. There's a lot of criticism that he's faced this season. Some people have said that he doesn't have much support as far as the players. It sucked to see him perform this way because he was 18-37, so that's not even 50% completion, and he hangs his hat on being accurate like that. So he's really hurt. Probably shouldn't have even played in this game. They should have played Case Keenum. Let him get to the bye. Let him get healthy. Then bring him back. See what he can do because he's playing himself out of millions of dollars. The Cleveland Browns cannot pay They cannot pay for this.
No, they can't. They cannot. And Kareem Hunt's dad said the exact same thing. If you hurt, you need to stop playing.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Exactly.
Everybody's calling him out now at this point. It's like, dog, you're not helping.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know that Case Keenum ain't good, but he's better than what you're doing right now.
Right. Right.
Just let him hand the ball and you just run the ball. Let them put 10 in the box and you just run the ball nonstop. And then throw a lob. Just throw a lob every once in a while.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right, up next, Packers 36-28 over the Rams. Aaron Rodgers 28-45, 307, 3 total touchdowns. Matthew Stafford 21-38, 302, 3 touchdowns, but 1 pick six. Rams had 3 total turnovers. One word on the Packers-Rams game.
Musty. That's how
musty.
That's how the Rams looked. They were clean cut, walking in there, suit, tie, didn't put on deodorant. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Oh, that's us. It's Rams. Yep.
Dank. Just musty. And look, so, we talked about this pre-production. My boy Boise Z hit me up and he was talking about your boy Matthew Stafford. He's been trying to get me on the Stafford train that he's elite, that he should be considered elite. And I keep reminding him that Stafford's been in the league for 13 years
Something
now?
like that. Yeah, he's old.
Why are we still trying to make this a thing? Why are we still trying to make Matthew Stafford more than what he actually is? Him and Kirk Cousins are literally the Spider-Man meme. The way they play every single week, it just doesn't make any sense. So they look bad. The defense has been giving up a lot of yards, even though efficiency-wise, DVOA-wise, they're still rated high.
Mm-hmm.
They putting out. But at the same time, when your quarterback's throwing pick sixes, which he's thrown 3 straight, he's thrown a pick six in the last 3 games.
Yes, he has.
That's not a good thing. And he's making me look bad on my MVP. But I did say this, and I'm going to continue to reiterate this every time we talk about him. The Rams will go and win the Super Bowl based upon Matthew Stafford and Matthew Stafford only.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be on Matthew Stafford. And right now, he is playing them out of a Super Bowl.
So it's like you can take Matthew Stafford out of Detroit, but you can't take Detroit out of Matthew Stafford.
No, you can't take Matthew Stafford out of Matthew Stafford. Is what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like I would think that having Sean McVay there, an offensive genius, the way that he is, to help balance you out, would have made him so much better. Because at this point, McVay doesn't have to be the quarterback as well as the head coach and the offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. His quarterback can do his own thing. But letting Stafford do his own thing is kind of becoming a problem. That's where the issue comes in, is he's looking really bad. Mm-hmm. He's playing poor.
Yeah, I don't want to admit this. This is very difficult for me to say because of how I feel about this particular player, more so off the field. I mean, I've been able to get past this with certain players like Draymond Green. I may not necessarily like you off the court, but I love what you do on the court. Aaron Rodgers and this Packers team, my God, they are fantastic.
They just figure it out.
Jesus Christ.
They figure it out every week.
They figure it out every week. And this game, 36-28, it was not that close.
Oh, no.
There were portions where they looked like they were toying with this team. And you were right that having a defense with 2 top 5 players in Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, it teaches you something about defense.
And Von Miller's playing.
It teaches you something about defense. You can have 3 guys like that are that fantastic, but it's almost as though you can structure an offense to where they're a non-factor as opposed to a defense with like 7 or 8 players who are good. Because when you think about the best defenses that we've seen in the NFL, it wasn't because of 2 or 3 players. They had maybe 2 or 3 players that were definitely great or Hall of Fame level, but when you look across the entire defense, it's just guys all over the place that can get it done.
Everywhere. But they have that kind of...
Outside of those top 3, I mean, the players are pretty decent. Well, then something's happening because teams are putting up points on this team. When I watch them on television, there's no fear whatsoever from that team or from what I'm seeing. Like when I used to watch, and I always go back to this as the best defensive I've ever seen, 2002 Buccaneers, just watching them on television, I was afraid for the team playing against them.
Yeah.
And I know that is rare for a defense to be that good, but it's because they had really good players everywhere. It wasn't just 2 or 3.
They've lost 3 straight games, 28, 31, 36 of the points that they gave up. It's just 3 straight weeks. They're just putting out.
I mean, maybe Aaron Donald is hurt or Jalen Ramsey's hurt and they're not saying anything, is not getting out.
And then they lost to the Cardinals. Cardinals were 37 on them. But their 4 losses were bad. And they're not able to score in those games. Like 16 versus the Titans, 10 versus the 49ers, 28 versus the Packers. Like you say, wasn't as close. They scored those basically at the end. And then 20 against the Cardinals. I don't know what is going on with them, but yeah, this is not a good team.
All right, last one. My God. Bengals over the Steelers 41-10. Joe Burrow, 20-24, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 190 yards. Ben Roethlisberger, 24 of 41, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, including a pick 6. Joe Mixon dominated, 165 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Looked every bit as good as Leonard Fournette in this game.
Looking like the Sooner that he is.
Yeah, exactly. So, one word to describe this particular game:
cooked. Ben Roethlisberger's cooked.
Done. He's
stick a fork in him, folks.
Finished.
Done.
And it's getting to the point. You ever see like you could be like outside, like when you were growing up, like shooting around with your buddies, playing football, whatever it is, and then there's some older gentleman in the neighborhood who gets out there with you and starts playing around, and you can tell that they look so old that you're worried about them getting hurt. That's exactly like, but you can't tell them to leave because it's like, they're your elders.
They're elders.
Yeah,
you gotta be respectful.
But watching Ben Roethlisberger, I'm just like, oh my God, he's gonna get hurt. Please retire him right now.
Ask him to go away.
Yeah, yeah, we'll pay you. Just chill out, sit down. He's got to see this. He's got to know this. Tomlin has to see this. They cannot bring him back next year. Like, this is getting embarrassing. Not just the score, but watching him just attempt to drop back and throw the ball. Like, he was once a really good quarterback, maybe even a great quarterback. You got your rings, you got your passing yards. Get out of the game.
Yeah, he needs to go. It's just, you're at the point. I mean, you kept toying around with the team anyway about leaving and staying and all of that. Pittsburgh, just go ahead and give him his papers. Do him the same way that Green Bay did Aaron Rodgers. Go find the guy that you really want. Get him, put him on the bench, or just say, Ben, I'm sorry, we're done. Because this relationship has gone way too long. Only one side is benefiting from it, and you're just accepting all of this abuse. Why are you doing this to yourself, Pittsburgh?
And speaking of Aaron Rodgers, one of the things that we had heard kind of throughout the season is that this would potentially be a landing spot for Aaron Rodgers I've heard that. But no, here's the thing though: with how Aaron Rodgers and this Packers team is playing, it's almost like Aaron Rodgers, despite all the crap that happened with Gutekunst and all that. Why would you want to leave this? Because there's something special about this team. It's like they've 4 straight NFC championships. They've been right there.
The cuffs,
right? And in the NFC,
they had like 11 injuries over like the last 2 weeks.
They lost people,
like
lost people left and right, and just perform every single week. Aaron Rodgers doesn't practice, goes out there and makes it look like practice.
Yeah.
So if Pittsburgh if the fans are hanging their hat on potentially getting him, you might need to look elsewhere because with the way the Packers team is playing and that they might actually be the best team in the NFC right now, he may not leave. So then what are you going to do? You cannot bring him back, Ben Roethlisberger. You cannot.
Just let Ben go. Just ask him to leave now. Just go right now. I'm sorry. You got to go. Do it. Do it.
Do it.
Do it. Do it. Thanks for checking us out here on the YouTubes as well as wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, rate, review, do all that jazz. Show some love because we love you and sharing is caring. So show that you care. Damn it. So with that, Jimmy. It was a crazy college football weekend.
Yes.
If you name it, it probably happened. We had UTSA, the Meats. Roadrunners took a massive L from the Mean Green. Oh my God, it was so bad. I felt bad for them. So they're completely out of playoff contention. Cincinnati went out there and cooked their opponent at SMU to head on to their championship game. But then you had all the bigger ones. The Iron Bowl, where Alabama almost lost. And then Auburn just...
Here you go.
Lemon booty.
We've come far enough. Here you go.
You know what? We're tired of winning. It's yours. We're up 10-0 roughly 10 minutes ago. We're done. It's yours. They take an L for, but I think the two biggest games to talk about is we'll start first. Bedlam. Oh my God, that was a good game. Now with all Lincoln Riley news and everything, that's the craziest thing about Lincoln Riley in this whole situation. Oklahoma took Oklahoma State's greatest achievement and moment as they prepared for the Big 12 championship and took every single highlight away from them. No one is talking about them.
Nobody cares
All
anymore.
the conversation is USC, Oklahoma, who OU's going to have a new coach, and we forget that Oklahoma State's going to play Baylor for the Big 12 championship.
At the same time, OSU fans are enjoying this because we beat you on Saturday, and now your coach leaves and you're in disarray. You don't know who you are.
Oklahoma State fans are loving this.
But outside of that, no one cares about this.
It's disrespectful. We're not talking about it. But this game overall, though, the Oklahoma State won the game 37-33. It was a very good game. I did enjoy watching it, except for the fact that just about everything weird that could happen happened in this game. I mean, multiple penalties, multiple no calls. It's like there was so many flags thrown in this game that the officials was like, guys, we're out of laundry. Sorry. We got to wash. We can't throw any more flags. And you had those last set of plays that really ruined it. But overall, Jimmy, what was your thoughts in watching this game? Because we watched it all together.
Yeah, we did. Real shout outs to Trevor as well.
Yeah. Shout out Trevor. Appreciate you hosting all of us.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Lot of fun.
Yes.
I walked away from this game believing that it wasn't so much that OSU won this game, it's that OU lost this game.
Ooh.
Here's what I mean by that. What I mean is sort of true to form, OSU did everything they could in that third quarter to give OU the game. They wanted them to have it. Maybe they caught wind of what was about to happen with Lincoln Riley, and they wanted to give the OU program and the fans something to feel good about before this happens with the coach, because they did everything that you could possibly do in order to lose a game, and OU did not properly take advantage of it. Because in that third quarter, what do you have? You have a safety. You have a punt return for a touchdown. OSU misses a field goal. OSU throws an interception. OSU ends their last two drives on downs. No, punting. They did everything they could to give this team the game, and they could not take it. So, yes, at the end of the game, OSU had 37 points. OU had 33. But they did everything they could to gift OU this victory. So, obviously, OSU fans, after all of these losses and all these losses just over the history of the matchup, will take this victory. But they did not win this. They did not win this convincingly. And it also makes me question just how they're going to perform in the rematch against Baylor and Dave Aranda, who you know are going to be out for blood, out for revenge. Because if they play like that in this particular game, then they don't have to worry about being in the CFP because they won't be anywhere near it.
So we talked about this on the preview last week about this one, and I told you I was going to throw myself ball deep into Oklahoma State. Unfortunately, I got Oklahoma State -4, so I just basically pushed and didn't really provide anything good for me.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, sure, there's that. Well, in watching the game, Oklahoma State kind of did some of the stuff that we expected. Their offense is pedestrian. It's not very good.
Gundy was conservative. Gundy
was extremely conservative second half. And they lucked out with Eric Gray being an extra in Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, where he decided to get the punt return, and then it just off his chest. So if he wasn't an extra and just let that ball go, OU is headed to the Big 12 championship to play Oklahoma State again. Lincoln Riley's not going to leave until after that game, or at least after the college football playoffs. And we're not talking about a lot of this stuff right now.
True.
But no, that's not what happened. What happened was OU tried their hardest to do the same thing that Oklahoma State was doing. They tried to outduel each other. So you had the punt, then you had the safety, which was that fumble was crazy. That probably may have been offsides, but based on the angles, it wasn't. Then OU gets the touchdown after the muffed punt, makes it even better. Oklahoma State misses a field goal, and then what happens? OU decides to give it all back. They fumble, but then they get the interception. Then they punt. Oklahoma State scores their touchdown. OU punts. Oklahoma State fumbles. Gets the ball from the Eric Gray play. Oklahoma State scores a touchdown. And then OU does nothing but what? Punt, 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 down, down, downs. And it felt like the play calling was pretty bad, especially around Caleb Williams not running. Like, I don't understand. He ran for 50-something yards in one of those plays, and it was like, why aren't you doing this more often? Why are we here? This is something that you should do more of. So I'm asking the question, honestly, is that Lincoln Riley, or was that Caleb being a freshman? Was he out there holding himself back from – he ran for 56 yards, and he finished the game with 36 yards rushing.
I think it was probably coaching. It was probably Lincoln Riley, because he doesn't want his quarterback in the fourth quarter to be Lamar Jackson and win it with his legs, even though Caleb Williams has the ability to do that and almost did it in this particular game. It's something I think that they should do moving forward. But I think it was more so him, because if he had been given the green light, if he looked at him on the sidelines during the timeout or whatever it was, said, Caleb, go to work, use your legs, eat. If you see it, go for it. Green light. Golden State Warriors, Steph Curry, green light no matter where you are on the court. Go for it. He would have done it more. So I think that was coaching.
Yeah, I can see that. And at the same time, Caleb also has a tendency to where he's not very good he's not reading his progressions. You can tell. You can tell that he's missing certain things. And it's not that he's incompetent. It's that he's young. He's getting used to seeing all these different defenses. The defenses are trying to mix as much up as possible at him to try to get him at happy feet. And it feels like he's trying not to run. It feels like a Cordell Stewart type situation where they're trying to make him a pocket passer when he really should be scrambling and running, especially when the openings hit. But I don't know how that's going to work out. We'll see what it looks like in the future. Hopefully Caleb sticks around and continues to do this and become a Heisman favorite for next season, because he would be a Heisman favorite for next season.
Yeah.
As a true sophomore running this offense with Cale Gundy. So you think Oklahoma State's got a chance to win this?
To win what?
Against Baylor.
Yeah, they do. They do. I think they're most likely the favorites. I'm sure they're in a position to do this. They have every reason to be confident coming off, one of the biggest wins in school history, probably the biggest win in school history since either beating Stanford and finishing the season, I think, number 3 or number 2, or the last time that they won Bedlam, which was that exact same season.
2011, yeah.
Yeah.
They actually ended number 3 that season.
They won in 2014, right?
Yeah.
Was that the Reek game? The Tyreek Hill punt return, 2014?
Yes, 14 was the Reek game. 2011 was when they ended up being third, and Alabama was given the option to play LSU a second time for national championship, in which, honestly, it should have been Oklahoma State in there, and that would have been a lot more fun to watch Oklahoma State versus LSU or Oklahoma State versus Alabama.
But I think OSU, they should be confident because, you did put up 33 points on a pretty good, to at times good defense, and that's something that their offense, and we said this as we watched the game, that it looked like there were plays, at least in the first half, that Mike Gundy and OSU were using that they hadn't used all season long. But you do save some back for this game because of the magnitude of the game locally. Yeah. And OU probably did the exact same thing. So that first half, was just punch, counter punch, back to back, 24 all headed into halftime.
I think about it, that makes sense, because if OU wins this game, they play each other again literally a week later. So in Dallas, neutral site. So it's kind of one of those, do you want to show all your cards? Just in case you have to see each other again or not.
Yeah, gamesmanship.
And you probably would hold back a little bit, but I think Oklahoma State has a good chance. They are my finest 5.5 point favorites in this game against Baylor. I like Dave Aranda, and I think he's a great defensive coordinator. I think I think that Oklahoma State goes in there and defensively shuts them down to where, which is the thing I love the most about Oklahoma State, is defensively they are really good, and they will go out there and probably win it 28-20.
And you know what was funny? And I can agree with that. You know what was funny about this game is how in the first half, the OSU offense didn't look like themselves and the OSU defense didn't look like themselves, giving up 24. And then in the second half, the OSU offense then started to look like themselves, and then the OSU defense then started to look like themselves and didn't allow an offensive touchdown for the rest of the game. So that just shows you how crazy, how up and down, how psychotic this game actually was.
Second half, they did not give up an offensive touchdown. That's just crazy to me. It tells you something. That tells you how good that Oklahoma State defense is, or limiting on Lincoln. I think it's more Oklahoma State than it is OU's play. I think it was their defense tightening up. Jim Knowles tightened them boys up. They went out there and they basically put the cuffs on them. That's what you do.
Yeah, I'll tell you another thing too. The penalties in this game. You talked about the penalties earlier, but OU got 12 of those penalties for 74 yards. OSU had 6 for 60. So the penalty yards was about the same, just 14 yards separating them. But those 12 penalties on OU, 12 do-overs, 12, just 12. It can be somewhat demoralizing if you get a penalty or if you keep getting the same type of penalty. So I think that definitely played a factor in this game. And from what I've heard, penalties were somewhat of an issue throughout the season with OU as far as that lack of discipline, that lack of being buttoned up.
Yes.
And being really within control of yourself that this team really struggled with, which again might have had something to do with Lincoln Riley or whatever, but it's just one of the details that has a major impact on the game. But I think that's a big part of the reason too as to why OSU won, because they won the penalty battle. You could say.
I guess you could say, you called it the penalty battle. So,
yeah.
So the AP college poll has come out, and we've got Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Cincinnati 3, Alabama 4, and Oklahoma State's number 5. So if Oklahoma's, and which I think that the college football playoff is going to probably be similar to this setup. It only makes sense.
I agree.
Notre Dame's probably going to be the odd team out unless Oklahoma State wins. That's the only way that Notre Dame is going to make it in here. So with that, did you watch any of the big game?
I did. I sure did. I watched a good portion of it.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Michigan, Ohio State. That was a game.
It felt like a game, just the way that it looked, just overcast, the snow. That was everything I wanted that game to be. I wanted Ohio State to win so I could get that dream matchup we talked about. Since we couldn't get OU Georgia, can we get Georgia Ohio State? We're not going to get that, but that was a really fun game to watch.
It was. You know what? I don't mind seeing Michigan take on. Actually, I don't mind Cincinnati playing Georgia with that Cincinnati offense and that Georgia defense battling each other, and see if they can pull an upset and make Georgia do what Georgia always does. Well, yeah, the state of Georgia teams always tend to do this. That will be awesome to see. But I'm really excited to see about this Michigan team. They went out there and played the most Northeast Midwestern football I have ever seen in my life. They averaged 7.2 yards a carry, 41 carries, 297 yards. They went out there and
it's because they wanted to more than the Ohio State defense. And that's what we talk about. We come back to this principle all the time. When you have more of a finesse team and then more of a power team, the answer to that finesse is power.
Yes.
Throughout the entire game. And that's exactly what this was.
They literally just went out there and just beat them up. They beat them up on the offensive line, on the defensive line. I mean, C.J. Stroud still went out there and threw for 394 yards, but could not get it done in the key moments.
Yes.
And it was all because of how that defense. I mean, Cade McNamara threw the only interception really of the game. And so the turnover battle between the two wasn't much. Only person that turned the ball over was McNamara, but Michigan went out there and they just drove down the field every single possession. I mean, they were out there on possessions of 10 plays. Let's see, they had the interception they threw. They had a punt on 6 plays. When they scored 13 plays, they had the lucky 3 play on the big one, the big run by Corum. Yeah, Corum, he dipped it. Hassan Fournette. No, he just scored a touchdown. So he didn't do the long runs. He just ran it into the goal.
Right.
But no, they were out there just beating them up, pound, pound, pound. And I kind of want to see that in the playoff now. So they got to play Iowa next.
Yes.
In the Big Ten Championship.
They better not lose this game. Are they going to lose this game?
They better not lose this game.
Can you imagine that?
Oh, God.
To come if they treated that Ohio State game like their Super Bowl, and I know maybe the fans kind of look at it that way.
They did.
Because it's been so long since they beat them.
Oh, my God.
Then psychologically, it's almost like, how can we get up for Iowa?
They beat them twice in the last 20 years.
Right.
That's embarrassing.
That is.
But the good thing is they still lead the career series. I think it's 58 to 51 and 58, 51 and 59, 51-6 is what the number is right now. So that's a good thing for them, but boy, they gave us a good game. I was excited watching it. I'm happy that Harbaugh finally got over the hump.
Me too.
That's what we needed. No, Ryan Day does not need to be fired. Ryan Day is just fine.
He's a really good coach.
All
I really
the toxic
like him.
fans want his head because they feel like he's just as bad as some old coaches, and it's not true. He's still a great coach. They're going to get to another national championship one day with him. But this is the year Michigan goes. Do you think Michigan makes it to the national championship, though?
Yeah, if they end up playing Cincinnati, let's say in that first round, whether it's Cincinnati or Oklahoma State that they will play in the first round, assuming that they get past Iowa, yeah, they beat them, and this is exactly what you would want. The committee and honestly fans, let's say outside of their respective locations of these schools or their fans. Nationally, you want Michigan in this game. You would want them in this game ahead of Cincinnati or Oklahoma State because it's a part of one of those top 5, top 7 blue blood programs.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that whoever their first round opponent is, assuming it's not Georgia, they're going to beat that team.
I wonder how people will react if Jim Harbaugh gets a national championship.
Well, they would have. There's nothing that they could say about any of the seasons at Michigan leading up to this.
Yeah, they really can't.
It's all irrelevant. No, it's not irrelevant. It's that it's all been a part of the plan.
Process.
Little by little, up and down.
We're going to work our way up there. And it's perfect because this is the perfect year because besides Georgia's defense, there's truly not a front runner. Like, I'm trying to think, who do I really think is the best team in college football? Besides Georgia's defense, I really cannot argue anybody else. So I'd love to see Georgia go up against Michigan for the title. I wouldn't mind seeing Georgia lose to Cincinnati and it'd be Michigan versus Cincinnati for the title or Oklahoma State.
Do you think there's any chance Georgia could lose to Alabama this weekend?
Oh, hell no. No. Alabama, and this is why I said Alabama was going to lose a game this year. They almost lost the second one too, which I'm still pissed off that that Auburn couldn't figure it out. The reason why I felt like they was going to lose this year, they brought in Bill O'Brien as offensive coordinator, and we are seeing that pay dividends for me. He is not good at all. He is bad, and he is showing it. And so you get him out there with those young players because Bryce Young is still young. No pun intended there.
No.
You throw him out there against that Georgia ball-hawking defense.
But he's played them before. I mean, so he's somewhat aware.
Last year?
You said Bryce Young for Alabama. He's playing, misunderstanding, you playing Georgia?
Yeah.
Because they played this year already.
No.
So Georgia and Alabama have not played this year?
No. Alabama's Alabama's only lost one game, and Georgia's undefeated. So
That's right. It was A&M that beat them.
Yes, A&M beat them at the crib.
Yeah. True.
So that right there tells me the question is, what will Bryce look like against that Georgia defense? The Georgia defense is historic. 66 points this season they've given up. 66. They have not given up double-digit touchdowns at all this season in total. 6 offense, 9 total touchdowns they've given up this year. 9. That tells you something about how special this is a historic defense. And so I don't know. I just feel like everything has lined up perfectly for them against Alabama. Now, I'm not going to say Alabama's out because it's Alabama. But I do think that, I think that Georgia's going to win this game the way they should. They're 6.5-point favorites. It's the 92 game streak of Alabama being a favorite has been broken with this game. 92 games straight. Ridiculous. So Michigan playing Iowa, I promise you, if Michigan loses that game, they better fire Harbaugh.
Damn. So you go from if he wins 2 more games, you can't say anything to him. If he loses one, get rid of him. It's over.
Fire him against Iowa. You don't lose to Iowa. They are a 10.5-point favorite against Iowa in the Big Ten championship game. Don't lose this game.
Well, no matter what, he's just by finally beating Ohio State, he's bought himself at least 3 more years.
I don't know why. If he loses to Iowa in the Big Ten championship, I don't think they do. I'm just saying that this is a game that you cannot lose. You have to win this game.
Well, I mean, because this is your ticket into the playoff. Absolutely, you do.
Yeah, you got to win this. Don't tarnish that Ohio State win. Don't make that Ohio State win look bad.
Right.
Go in here, put in work on the Iowa Hawkeyes, and send yourself into the playoffs. Jimmy, editing room floor.
Editing room floor. Oh, man. I hate being the bearer of bad news, but it seems like I've been doing that a lot lately. Denver Nuggets forward Michael Porter Jr. will undergo, I know where it's going, will undergo a surgical procedure on his lower back on Wednesday and miss an indefinite period of time. His agent, Mark Bartelstein of Priority Sports, told ESPN on Monday he is expected to make a full recovery. However, a timetable for his return post-surgery is unknown, which basically means, Jay, and basically should mean that he's out for the season. Don't bring him back. There's no reason to. With as sensitive as these back issues are with him, now that it's culminated in surgery, just let him be done for the season. Come back next year, see what he can do.
Is the ink dry on that contract?
Yeah, they use the blow dryer, so it's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so he's good.
Yeah, bag's good. Bag's secure.
That's all that matters to me. His bag is secure, so I am not going to even complain. I hate it for him. He's dealt with this his whole career. I'm really hoping that he comes back with a full recovery.
I do too. We'll see. So up next, blast from the past, Jay. Houston Rockets guard John Wall met with the GM Raphael Stone and coach Steven Silas on Sunday to reiterate his desire to return to the lineup in a feature role, an idea that team officials continue to be reluctant to accept, and a possible return to play because they have wanted Wall to accept a complimentary role to his young players to play on this team, and the five-time All-Star guard's unwillingness to do so continues to be a hurdle for both sides in a possible return this season.
Oh, God. I've been following this whole dramatic saga, and I'm just going to say this to everybody that really thinks that John Wall, the free John Wall movement, they told John Wall you can come play, but you got to ride the bench. And he's like, nah, I want to start. And they're like, nah, we want to develop our young players because you're not the future. And he said, nah, I'm good then. Okay, you can just continue to be paid. Now, the other thing, too, why are we chastising the Rockets for tanking? Is tanking okay as long as you're not Oklahoma City or Philly? Because everybody's attacking Oklahoma City and they're winning games. They're in games. They're just losing at the end, too. Game winners, stuff like that. It's stupid.
I get where the team is coming from in the sense that they do have young players they want to develop, and they don't want them to be very good, so that because there are some pretty good prospects that are going to be in the draft at the top next season, so they're wanting one of those to continue the rebuild there in Houston. And with John Wall, he might actually do what some veterans do, which is make the team a little bit better, win some games you're not supposed to, and potentially affect what their process is going into the offseason and into the draft. Because of that inflated contract, no one wants to pay that. I wouldn't pay for John Wall. Obviously, other teams don't want to either. So they're kind of stuck with each other. And really, they won't be able to move forward the way they need to while this albatross, for lack of a better phrase, is still hanging around their neck. Lastly, Dalvin Cook, dislocated shoulder. Is not certain whether or not he's going to need surgery or anything like that or what the timetable is, but he heard it yesterday in the team's loss to the San Francisco 49ers. And you could probably lump Dalvin Cook, Jay, in with Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey these last few years, that it just seems like every third or fourth game they get hurt.
Yeah, and it seems like just running backs are just getting beat up. And I don't know what to think. I feel bad because it hurts my heart that every week.
Yeah, and you know what?
injured.
Even Zeke, he's clearly
hurt.
He's hurt, and he is clearly not the best running back on this team. And I think we said this weeks ago that Tony Pollard, and now everybody else is starting to come around to that.
But I don't know. I think Tony Pollard still is better in spurts than he is if he would be the every down back. I think that is a thing. I really
maybe
do.
Part of what this is showing is Derrick Henry. We lost him. Aaron Jones, he just came back after missing 2 games.
But Dylan was running the ball basically.
Maybe the idea of the feature back that you handed off to 20 to 25 times a game needs to die. Just the idea of doing that, taking that many hits 20 to 25 times. And, or just touches, period, because a lot of these guys catch passes, but you're still getting hit. So, maybe they need to dial back on just how much a running back needs to touch the ball. Maybe 15 to 20 at the max, not 25 to 30.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Well, we appreciate y'all joining us as usual here on Unfair Sports. Thanks for checking us out here on YouTube as well as wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to. While you're there, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, give us 5 stars. You think we deserve it? Man, just go ahead and give us 5 anyway.
Gift it.
All right, so for Mike, Bob, and Wendy, thank you so much for doing what you do best on the back end side. For the co-host, Jimmy, we'll be back with the OSG report this week. We took, of course, the holiday off and enjoyed ourselves.
Yeah.
May have a little something in between with the college football playoff, as well as maybe my power rankings will come back again. I don't know. NFL keeps topsy-turving, and I don't know if I can keep up with it. I actually don't know what to do with my hands anymore, the way things are going. So, but we'll make it happen. So with that, we will chop it up with y'all in a few days.
Peace.